This is Teatime. Yeah. Making a difference, one cup at a time. Teatime. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Teatime. Making a difference, one cup at a time. Teatime, yeah. Teatime.
Well, welcome everybody. Today is a special tea time. That's right. We are not Thursday. It is Monday. And I have a special guest in the house, and we're going to talk about Empower2Recover. We're going to talk about his personal story, his incredible nonprofit, and how you can help and how you can check out the events that are coming up, all that good stuff. So we're going to do a little disclaimer. We're going to do a little bit of bio. We're going to get Jay in here. And we're going to spill a cup of tea that takes actions, empowering, and advocacy. That's the type of tea that we're serving in this house today. So grab your tea, grab your coffee, grab your glass of water, grab your juice. You do not have to drink tea to have tea time with Miss Liz. So let's get started and let's get Jay in here and let's spill some tea together. So disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to use your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forth for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forth dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment in taking any action that may relate to the discussions. The content brought forward may include discussion where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that the show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in today's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect those wishes and will see you at a later show at a later date and time. And again, all Tea Time shows are done on Thursday, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If it's a Monday or Tuesday, it's a surprise tea time or a returning guest that is coming for a second cup of tea, or maybe even a third or fourth. So now a little bit on my guest. Well, who is my guest? My guest is Jay Barnard. Jay Barnard is the founder and CEO of a non-for-profit called Empower2Recover Foundation, which is a live and online mental health, trauma, and addictions platform that is traveling Canada, raising voices and inspired to change. Jay has 16 years experience in the recovery field, where he has not only found freedom from his addictions, he has transformed his mind, body, and soul. He is now a motivational speaker, well known as Chef Recovery, who has been featured on TEDx, Shaw TV, and many other publications, where he shares his journey of hopeless addicts to thriving in recovery and inspiring thousands. So let me get Jay in here and let me spill some tea with Jay. So let me pop him in here. Welcome, Jay.
Welcome. That was a mouthful.
Right? I couldn't sound like a Woody Woodpecker.
It's always interesting when you hear somebody introduce you. It's kind of always like, you have done something in this world, kid.
Right?
So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I appreciate you having me. And it was great when we first met, and here we are now.
I think it's really, truly incredible how we met, because we met through Santa. So we're going to have some Santa surprises in the future.
Santa Claus. Santa Claus is part of the board, actually.
So, Jay, let's get into who you were as a little guy and who you are now as a grown guy.
Sure. I kind of like to kind of just look at it like, I was dealing with a lot of trauma in my life, just like a lot of people do, right? Every single one of us has trauma. And if you say you don't have trauma, you're just in denial until you find out you have trauma, because eventually you're going to find out you have trauma. And it kind of just compounded. I was born Jay Corey. My mom got remarried, and then that's where I got Jay Barnard. And the identity crisis set in at a young age, and then the addiction set in with food and porn, and a lot of people don't want to talk about porn, It's an important one because it's like readily available and at the hands of anybody, and it's an addiction that a lot of people have that they're ashamed to say that they were addicted to it. Now, when I was 11, 12, 13 years old and I found this, obviously, um, finding that really dictated how my relationships were going to be in the future, because it really did mess the relationship side of things up for me when it came to understanding what a female is, and how to treat a female and how to look at a female, and how to build a relationship and how to love a female and how to understand a female and how to be there for them. And God put females on the earth for a reason, right? And they're not on the earth to be used. So um, just like men have been put on earth by God, and we're not supposed to be used, right? But when you get sunk into that addiction, that's what it is. You're just using people, right? So once those two wore off, I got right into the drugs and alcohol, and I had my first drink at the age of 11. I like to call it. It's not, I was already a teenager at the age of 11. Um, and it was one of those things where, and everything was gone. And when I say everything was gone, that meant everything. I wanted everything, and I wanted more of what that was that made me feel the way I did. And I didn't have to deal with anything. I didn't have to worry about anything. I didn't have to be Jay Corey. I didn't have to be Jay Barnard. I could lie. I could cheat. I could manipulate. I could steal. I could just, I never had to be me. And I was too scared to be me anyway, because I didn't know who I was, right? Like, I mean, for a portion of my life, I was Jay Corey. And then, I got moved, to Jay Barnard. And the relationship with my father, I mean, it was rocky the whole entire childhood. He was an addict and an alcoholic as well, and had a lot of trauma. So the relationship with him and I were very straining at most parts. The relationship with my mother has always been strong. My mother's loved me through thick and thin, no matter what. I think there was a point in in both our lives where my mother was enabling me and I was enabling her, because I needed to get high and drunk, and she just didn't want her kid to hurt. And she didn't really understand what keep giving money was, and keep keeping me this and this and this and this, right? Because she was probably holding a lot of guilt from the divorce and everything that went on there, right? So but my mother has always been there for me. She's never left me. She always came to jail to visit me. She always put money in my canteen. She always, you know, always believed that I could be somebody, along with my grandfather and my grandma. Um, those three three believed in me the most. And problem was that I just didn't believe in myself. I didn't even know who I was, right? So
Yeah.
after alcohol came drugs. After drugs came drug dealing. And then once I found drug dealing, then it was game over. I just couldn't get enough, because now I had everything and anything I wanted, right? So money, fame, sex, drugs, rock and roll, skip school, didn't care.
So Jay, I want to take it back a bit, because I do talk about porn on Teatime. We've had 2 porn addiction males come on and speak about addiction. Was your porn addiction before the drugs and alcohol?
Yeah, it started around 10, 9, 10. When I found the stash in my stepdad's bedroom.
The good old stash, right?
Good
Back
old
in the day, that's where we.
VHSs. Yeah, and then that's where I found it, and it just took me out of the thing. And then all of a sudden we had a satellite dish. Satellite dish got you every channel, and next thing you know, I'm just like buried in it. You know what I mean? And I didn't have to live. I didn't have to worry about, because I was a heavy set kid, and just wasn't let's say the girls guy until I became a drug dealer, and then all of a sudden I was popular. Right? So until that point I really wasn't, you know what I mean? And so that was the outlet, and yeah, it damaged.
So Jay, how did you find
It
out that
definitely damaged how I looked at it.
Yeah. So Jay, how did you look at it
When it
as
starts
an
consuming
addiction?
Well, it was consuming me, right? Like, it was like I'd have to watch it all the time, or nobody'd be home. I'd be watching it. I'd be watching it late at night. I'd be so once something starts consuming you and you tend to, you know, do it more than you should do it,
Yeah.
I think that's when it becomes a problem, right? So if you're skipping school and, going home to watch porn, you might have a problem. You know what I mean? You might want to look into it. Or if you're going home to drink, or going home to use drugs, or going home, or if you're going home and eating, like eating disorder is a huge one as well. You know what I mean? Like I used to eat, and then puke, right? So because I was a big kid, I'd just like eat so much food, and then I'd force myself to puke.
Well, Jay,
So
it sounds like you had like an addiction pyramid going on, because you had the porn, you had the drugs, you had the alcohol, you had the eating. It was just like you were looking for something to find to fill yourself.
yeah, I just didn't want to didn't want to be me, right? I didn't want to. And like I said, I didn't know who I was. So for 9 years of my life, I was Jay Corey. So in that period of time, then all of a sudden you get, go through a divorce. Back then divorce was kind of taboo. You didn't really talk about it. Failed grade 3, then go back to grade 3, was Jay Corey, now Jay Barnard. Now the grade 3s that are in grade 4 are looking at me differently because I'm this, right? So now I'm kind of like this outcast kind of guy, right? So
Yeah.
the only thing I could find that would comfort me in that position and in that circumstance was food. But the problem was is I ate so much of it, then I'd get sick, right? So when I found porn, I could watch as much porn as I wanted. It didn't make me sick, right? It made me sick in the mind, but I wasn't like physically puking, and I wasn't, physically hurting myself. I guess you could say, like
Yeah.
forcing myself to puke or anything like that. But I was obsessed. I was obsessed with it, and yeah, and then when I found the alcohol, like I found a liquor cabinet and just took a sip, and that was it. You talk about tea time, I talk about sip time, and that was it. Sip time was sip time. And,
Well, that's what we're doing today. Is we're spilling the real tea, right? We're spilling real life tea over here. And Jay, I really want to appreciate you for being so open and raw, because that's what my listeners enjoy listening to. The authenticity of real life stories, and that's how we spill real tea over here. You talk about food addictions, you talk about porn, you talk about alcohol and drugs. There's so many listeners out there that are suffering right now. With your story, what I want to do is I want to open some doors and save a life by having you share your story and being that raw piece of meat, right? Because I know that you became a chef with your food addiction. So uh and you talked about
yeah,
fish. Like we talked outside of tea time a lot about the fish, and taking this fish right down to the bare bone. Like you did some magic with that fish. So how did you find out that your food addiction could take you into the chef world?
well, I think the chef world really started with my grandma. You know what I mean? My grandma used to bake and make pickles and bread and cinnamon buns, and she'd have a cigarette hanging out of her mouth, drinking a blue. You know what I mean? And it was just cool watching her with her apron on, getting half smashed up, doing this stuff. And then there's like, it'd start off with all these raw products, and then at the end, it was just this marvelous piece of, meal that everybody got to take hold in. It was like community, right? Like a meal is community, and so I was really intrigued by that. And then obviously the food addiction got a hold of me, and then through my time through addiction and using and finding the harder drugs and just getting harder and harder into it and landing myself in jail and then trying to do the geographical cure because I can move. What I never realized about when you move, you always bring you with you. So that didn't really work if I wasn't willing to change. So that's a big part about the geographical cure. People have a misconception, that if you move, that you will get better. Now, I'm not saying you won't get better because maybe you will. 9 times out of 10, though, you're bringing yourself with you. And when you bring yourself with you, you're bringing the same thing. So I'm just going to go find another Miss Liz. I'm just going to go find another Jay. I'm just going to, right? So next thing you know, I find myself down that rabbit hole of doing the same things with the same people doing the same stuff all the time, right? And that's what happened. And, I had got myself busted with a bunch of cocaine, and the city of Kenora kicked me out of the city, and I had to move to Sudbury. And God bless my uncle. He let me move in with him. He was the president of the Hells Angels in Sudbury, and I just this life I had, right. And then I found this company called DS Max, and it was door-to-door sales, and fit right in with me because I used to sell drugs, right? So, and the other thing was, is I needed to use drugs, so I needed to sell as much product as I could to get the product to keep me numb, so I didn't feel. So, whatever product you gave me, I needed to sell, and I did fairly well at that company. I was, top sales guy a couple of years in a row. I got to travel and move around, and but the problem was, is the the trauma suitcase just kept getting bigger and bigger because I wasn't dealing with the trauma. So if the trauma suitcase is getting bigger and bigger, that just means that my addiction's getting worse and worse, and my alcoholism is getting worse and worse, and the way I talk to myself is getting worse and worse, and the way worse and worse, and the way I act is getting worse and worse. And I went to Oshawa. From Sudbury, I went to Oshawa. From Oshawa, I went to Hamilton. Hamilton, I went to Barrie, and Barrie hit an all-time low. I ended up losing everything there. I tried taking my life 2 times back to back, 4 days apart. First night, I took a bunch of green pills and swallowed them, and the girl I was seeing woke up, found me in a pile of black puke, barely breathing. She hadn't seen me in 2 weeks. Why she showed up at midnight is one of these things, these signs of, whatever you want to call it, the force, God, higher power, whatever it is for you. These things have always shown up in my life. There was no reason for her to be there. We had broken up for whatever reason. She came there that night, found me in a pile of black puke, barely breathing. I got rushed to the hospital. Obviously, I overdosed. They charcoaled me, brought me back to life. Now, one of the worst feelings in the world is when you've actually, in your mind, committed to yourself that you're going to, go out by death by suicide. Now, a lot of people will say that's the cowardly way to go out, but it's actually, for a person to actually come to terms with that is very strong inside the individual. It's not the way to go out, but for some of us, that's the only way we know out. So, at the end of the day, it was 2005. I think I was 25 years old. And I was tired. I was just really, really tired. I couldn't keep up to the lies anymore in my mind. I couldn't keep up to what I said or who I said it to. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't hold anything in. I couldn't hold the job. I couldn't have I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. And I honestly thought it would be better, that my family didn't know and all this stuff. And, the worst feeling is when you wake up and you're in the hospital, and you're like, what do I do now? Because I'd already committed to, death by suicide, and here I am alive still. So, already thinking I'm a massive failure before that. Now I'm thinking like I'm twice as, like I left there 4 days later. I went and got a 60 rye and an ounce of crack, and I tried hanging myself for 24 hours. Every time I tried hanging myself, I just, for some reason, I couldn't do it. And I ended up finding myself at the court office, and I turned myself in at the Barrie Police for driving while under suspension for the 5th time. And they gave me a year in penitentiary, which essentially saved my life. So once again, higher power intervened, brought me to this court office, a mess. They're like, do you know what you're doing? And I'm just yelling in the court office, I don't care. And I sat in that jail cell for 9 months before I got let out. But when I got out of there, the cycle just continued because I didn't know how to deal with the trauma. I didn't know how to look at the trauma. I didn't know how to look at me. I didn't know how to, so that was 2006. And then I just went through the system, right? I just went through the system, in and out of jail, selling cocaine, in and out of jail, couldn't hold a relationship, in and out of jail. I got out of jail and I went to Ontario Works, and Kim Innard said, what do you want to be, Jay? And I said, well, I've always wanted to be a chef. I like food. I want to cook. So they actually got me enrolled into introduction to cooking or something it was, and through Ontario Works. And that's where I was really introduced to, the fundamentals of what cooking is, and the fundamentals of how do you do this, and the fundamentals of this. And, the chef taught the program, and it was, really exciting to see that I could maybe be a chef, and maybe I could take, now I was a mess. And that year, my best friend hung himself, who was a chef. He was going to He was going to college in Sudbury to be a chef, Don Roy, and so we both had a passion for food. But from there I went to the Best Western and got on as an apprentice and started following the dream to be a Red Seal chef. But the problem was I just, like I said, the trauma suitcase kept getting bigger. It just wouldn't. The pressure of everything, and I'd find myself in jail. They came and bailed me out a couple times, but the third time I made the front of the newspaper with a bunch of cocaine, and that was in January 7th of 2008 is the last time I actually had a physical drink. So I haven't had a drink since January 8th. But I couldn't put the drugs down. So I wasn't completely abstinent from drugs and alcohol January 8th, but I had a beeper on my leg. I had to go to the police station, 3 times a day to sign in. I couldn't hang out with this person, that person. My life was pretty, didn't look good.
Yeah.
It sure doesn't look like it does today. And then they sent me to a counselor, and the counselor said, "Have you ever thought of treatment?" I was like, "What's treatment?" Because I never asked for help. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know what help was. I didn't even know what AA was. I didn't know what NA was. CA. I didn't have a single clue of what any of this stuff was. And that one time when they let me out of jail, I had one shoe, and my pants were ripped, and I was walking home. It was wintertime. I had to go to the D in there, and there's a guy sharing about being 3 years sober and clean. And I was like, "To be honest, you're drinking wine on Sunday." Well, here we sit today, 16 plus years, completely abstinent from all mind-altering substances. So he was actually telling the truth back then. I just didn't really understand what the truth was because I didn't know how to tell the truth. So
Yeah.
They got me booked into the Salvation Army Boost Center in Ottawa, Ontario for February 11th, 2008. And that's when the journey started. February 10th was the last time I used drugs. And they basically snipped off my bracelet and said, "Good luck, kid."
Wow.
And sent me off. There was no real, my parents got me to the airport. Once I got on the plane, you got to think I'm coming 10 hours off of drugs. I want something now. And also, wait a second here. You're sending a guy that got busted with cocaine, possession of the purpose of trafficking 5 times. You're just letting him leave the city of Kenora to go to some other place that he could change his name. And, I don't have to be, all these things go through your mind. As a guy that cheats, lies, and steals, that's what you're going to do. But I remember landing in Ottawa. I didn't know what treatment was, so I went to Harvey's, ate 3 hamburgers. Didn't know if I was ever going to have a hamburger again, and I thought my life was over. And get in a cab. He brings me down to George Street, and I'm like, "Where are we?" Like, get out. As I'm going to thinking whatever the treatment center is, all these people are around me. "Hey, looking for that?" Asking me for my drug of choice, and I'm like, "Wait a second. What the sand is going on here?" So I get in there, and they're like, "Oh, no, this is the homeless shelter. The treatment center is down the road." So I live in a small town. Down the road is really down the road.
Yeah, down the road. Yeah.
In the city, it means next door. So literally, the Anchorage Men's Booth Center was next door to the homeless shelter. And this is where I was supposed to stay for 4 months without drinking, using, or doing any of the above to possibly not get any jail time because I was looking at a 5-year sentence. And I was like, "How am I going to do this?" So I get over there, and the first question they ask is, "Did you use?" And obviously denial. Now I think when they called, I was so messed up. I tossed the phone in the freezer, and the freezer started shaking, and I grabbed the phone out of the freezer, and that's when I got the bed and everything. But I didn't honestly hear that you had to be 72 hours completely clean and sober, so they were like, "You're gonna have to go next door." And I'm like, "I'm not coming back if I go next door. Like, you need to lock me up." And here's another sign of God. The chaplain Nick says, I believe he didn't hear us say 7 stay.
Yeah.
And chaplain Nick let me stay in the treatment center. So I've had all these God shots come into my life at a time where I really needed the God shots. Now, I didn't say God back then at that time. I did not like God. I didn't like the word. I didn't even want to hear about anything to do with that. Like, he was the reason I was in trouble, or she, or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Do not bring that up. I don't want to hear it.
But you get so angry, right? You're like, well, what the hell? Like, when do I get a break? Like,
Well, it's not even that. It was me that was doing it all. So who, like, at the end of the day, I was in my own demise. So, like, when you say break, Jay, you have a break so you can get a break. It's not everybody else is against
yeah,
you. You're against yourself.
yeah.
So if you're against yourself, you're never going to get a break. You're never going to, you know what I mean? So, and yeah, February 11th, 2008, we started the journey of recovery, um, which is, I think, 5,892 days ago, maybe.
Well, I think it's really inspiring, Jay, what you've done, because look at all the difference you've made since you've recovered. How many people have you met? You've met different people from the people that you met when you were doing the porn, the alcohol, the drugs, and everything, right? It's a completely different circle. But
Yeah.
you've also found people who have gone through that journey. And what I really liked when I talked to you, Jay, before we set this tea time up, is you said this organization is for the people. It's run by people for the people. And I think that that's really incredible, because we need more prophets like yours that are working for the people, not against the people.
Yep, 100%. And that that dream kind of came as about, I didn't know it was going to be what it is today, but they asked me to speak at this church. I think I was like 30 or 45 days or something. And they said, we'll give you a $50 voucher to go speak. And I was like, whoo, oh yeah, Sally Ann clothes. I need some clothes. Let's go. And it was an NA dance. So I was looking for a sexy shirt because I was going to go pick up somebody at the dance. You know what I mean? Like, I'm 45 days in here. I'm a hot piece of meat. Like, come on, like, that's where you should go. Don't go pick up people at the NA dances. That's not what you do. Anyway, so I go to the church and I'm like, I'm at the wrong church. Like, nobody's coming. Nobody, like. So I kind of looked around and just another God shot. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to take this opportunity just to tell my story. I'm just going to sit at the front of the room and I'm going to tell my story like this whole entire place is full. And I'm going to see, like, if I want to be a motivational speaker and if I want to do this for the rest of my life, and if I want to, raise voices and inspire change all across Canada and the world for that matter, this is going to tell me if I can do it. And there's another God shot. I got an opportunity and nobody was there. Yeah, I went back to the treatment center and I was like, nobody showed up. I don't know if I was at the wrong place. Oh yeah, we forgot to tell you it canceled. Here's your $50 voucher. And I was like, I just got paid $50 to like share my story, and like actually, there was nobody there. Oh, bye, sweetie. See you later. And so I was able to like share my story, and then I got paid. I was like, so I went down to the Sally Ann. I got myself an aggressive pink salmon shirt, and I headed off to an NA dance and tried to pick up women. But at the end of the day, that's where I got hooked on. Okay, I don't know when this is going to happen, but I want to be a motivational speaker. I want to inspire change, and I want to raise voices, because to me, stories are the way that we're going to break through this epidemic that we're in all across the world. Stories are the way that we connect. Stories are the way that we heal. Stories are the way that we have community. Stories are the way that we feel that we're not alone. Stories are the way that we can come together and have love, kindness, and compassion. Stories are the way that we learn and can listen to new ideas and tools and resources from other people. And that's how we get recovery, right? So that's the new superpower. The new superpower is actually recovery. So I got out of treatment, but I stayed for 6 months. I stayed an extra 2 months just because I wanted to stay longer. I didn't like the word graduation. I looked at the word graduation and I thought, how am I graduating from a bag of cocaine and a bottle of booze? Like, what am I graduating to? Another bag? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Graduation. So I used the word transitioning. I'm transitioning into society. I'm transitioning into learning. I'm transitioning to pay bills. I'm transitioning to, become a better person. I'm transitioning to love myself. I'm transitioning to be easy on myself. I'm transitioning to, take care of my preoccupied about spent time, which is past. I had to clear that rubbish up in order to move forward. And so I looked at the word transitioning, and I think that's probably one of the reasons I'm still on this side of the grass today, is because I changed the word and looked at the avenue of what I was about to do, which was go into second stage as the next launching pad to who Jay Barnard was going to be, instead of like really rushing himself through life and saying, "Hey, listen, this is all going to happen." And I went into second stage and I met Robert Ware, who's one of my best friends. And second stage really gave me the opportunity to become that guy I wanted to be. Right? It gave me the opportunity to understand that there was other ways to recover. It gave me the understanding of, I got enrolled back into Algonquin College, and the college just opened with love, kindness, and compassion. And Jay, you're just so open and honest about your recovery and the fact that you don't have any money and that you just want to become a chef, and you're sharing your story. And the college made a big story about me and shared it all across all the Algonquin colleges. And the chefs took me in and really teach me how to become a 5-star chef across, a Michelin chef, really. And I was able to brand myself with the help of Simone Choi. I was calling myself the recovering chef, and then she's like, "Jay, why don't you call yourself Chef Recovery?" And I was like, "Chef." And I was like, "I can brand that." And that's when Chef Recovery was born. And the most beautiful thing about my story is that everybody else helped Jay because Jay helped himself. If Jay didn't help himself, nobody would help Jay. So all these people that I talk about, right? Because I don't take credit for any of this stuff. It was Simone Choi that gave me the name. It was the chefs that helped me out. Yes, I had to do the work, but these people were put in my place to help me because I was helping myself. And all these people, like Kenton Lear, who was the executive chef at the Delta Hotel, I bugged him for a job for like 3 months. And then he finally said, "Okay, Jay, I'll give you an opportunity at the Delta Hotel." Well, now I'm working at the Delta Hotel as a third cook, making $18 an hour, just coming out, living in second stage. Like, I was living the life.
Yeah.
And also living my dream, and also building my brand, and also getting on TV. And also back there, it really took off for me when Ron Eade, he's the food editor for the Ottawa Citizen, he came down south with me and he did a whole entire front page article on who Chef Recovery is, what we do, how, and that's when it really took off, when they went, "Wow, there's this chef in recovery, and he's speaking about his trauma, his mental health, his addictions. He's going to the depth. He's being real and honest. He's emotional. He he doesn't leave. He leaves it all on the table." And then that's when all of a sudden people started calling. "Hey Jay, do you want to speak? Hey Jay, do you want to speak? Hey Jay, do you want to speak? Hey Jay, do you want to speak?" And then I had the opportunity to move to Fort McMurray. My family was living in Fort McMurray. And that's really, really when it took off for me. I became a celebrity chef out there, doing things with the celebrities like Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, William Shatner, Snoop Dogg, Leonardo DiCaprio. The list goes on of the A-listers that I got granted by God. Like, here I am, 5 years into recovery, 4 years into recovery, and here I am rubbing arms with some of the most famous people in the world. Like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And the reason it happened is because I had a belief in myself. The reason it happened is because I loved myself. And the reason it happened is because I was kind to myself. And the reason it happened is because I just wouldn't stop for the dream. I wanted to be the best chef that I could be. I wanted to be the best chef in recovery that I could be. I wanted everybody and anybody to hear my story across Canada and the world, for that matter. I was just fighting the fact that I couldn't get out of Canada because of the pardon, but at that time, and it took right off. And then all of a sudden, TV started coming along, and, "Hey, do you want to do a TV show?" And, "Hey, can we do this with you?" And, "Hey, can we do that with you?" And I started getting awards, and that's when I made the move back to Kenora, when I met Julie, who's Destiny's mom. And I'll be forever grateful for Julie, Destiny's mom, because Julie gave me my little baby girl. And I didn't think I was gonna have a kid. Um, it turns out I have this little baby girl by the name of Destiny. And she's just like, it's one of the most beautiful things in the world. You know what I mean? Like, she runs around the house, yells "Recovery rocks." You know what I mean? Like, she understands her dad in a way, because her dad lets her be open and honest about trauma, mental health, and addiction, because we don't need to hide this stuff. Our kids are suffering right now. Our youth are suffering. Our youth are taking their lives at the age of 9 and 10. How do they even know how to take their lives at the age of 9 and 10?
Yeah.
That's the question I have. How do they know? Right? Like, it's so sad. So, Julie and I have a great relationship today when it comes to co-parenting, and we separated about 5 years ago, but we really learned that it's about destiny. It's not about me. It's not about Julie. If we work together, we'll have a beautiful kid, and if we have a beautiful kid, we'll get along. Um, it was one of the most proudest things I've ever done. Is uh, one, break up with somebody I love. Two, learn how to work with that person while still having a kid, and making the focus on destiny, and not the focus on what happened.
Yeah.
So we can't change what happened, but we sure can change what goes on in Destiny's life. And Destiny is loved on every angle of the world, from her mom to her from her mom's side to my side, to anything in between. So yeah, Destiny is one of the proudest moments of my recovery career. At 7 years, I had her. Um, then I opened up a restaurant. From there, I opened up freshwater cuisine, so we started talking about the fish. So every chef's dream is to have their own products. Every chef's dream is to, at least get something to the farmer's market or the gas station. And once again, I was just so fortunate and lucky. I don't even know if it's luck, but just so fortunate that, I was given so many different opportunities. We created a business called Freshwater Cuisine, and it was using underutilized, undervalued, unappreciated fish in our lakes, and creating products with those fish and bringing it to the market. 9-time award-winning business over 5 years. We're one in 5 top businesses in all of Ontario for leader in innovation. The Kathleen Wynne at the time presented us with a $25,000 check for that award. Flew us down to Toronto. We're in this little shitbag town, Kenora. Like, what do you like? You know what I mean? Like, nobody thought, like, but I just had this belief, right? I knew as a chef the amount of waste there was in the world, and I knew what you could do with that waste, and I knew that you could make more revenue with waste. So why would you throw away the waste?
I think that's what, and then that's really incredible, Jay, because you made the difference by showing people that what you're throwing out, we can still use, and it's like an addiction. What we used to use, we can still use today, but in a different way. We can bring value to it.
Yeah.
Because your story, you had to go through what you had to go through to have the story, to be able to do what you do today with the nonprofit. It's like the fish, right? You took all the waste and you turned it into something good.
Yeah. We even turned it into a TV show. It was called Lake to Plate, and we cooked everything you could think of. It was on Shaw TV all across Canada, and then we just signed a massive deal with a company. We became certified. So we were selling products all across Canada, and we were just waiting to get our export license to start selling products to the U.S. We had a contract with Minnesota State Fair. Actually, the walleye wings were going to be the flagship product at the Minnesota State Fair 2019 or 2020. And then COVID came. And it was the biggest educational, I don't like to say loss because I didn't lose anything, because I learned through things. I like to say it was the biggest educational experience, expensive experience in my life. I lost about $3 million, and this dream that I had was on the cusp of being what I knew it was going to be. One thing is to get across farmers markets, breaking out of the gas stations, getting into the grocery stores. Now the products are all across Canada. Now you're recognized all across Canada by going international, into the US, into Europe, into Australia, into UK with products of fish. And that was like, we were on the cusp of that. And, you know, basically we just, source got cut, business got cut, money just went. And I was at a period of my life where I was in 2018. I'll back it up. 2018, I was 10 years into recovery, and I sold out the Shaw Center downtown Ottawa for the Salvation Army Hope in the City. And I shared, and I went back to my hotel room, and I was like, nobody got anything. And I was like, if I go back home and I look at Destiny, I don't see any love. I don't want to live anymore. Like if I cannot feel love for my daughter, there's nothing left in me. Like, and that's what happened. I came home and I didn't feel any love for Destiny, and I love my daughter to death, right? And I tried to hang myself at 10 years into recovery. And the place I chose is where my best friend did it, and it was completely quiet that day. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the dam opened up. Boom! And water just came flooding out everywhere. Another God shot. God saying, we're not done with you yet. Well, every single time in my life, something like that goes in my mind, God shot comes. Jay, we're not done with you yet. Jay, we're not done with you yet. Jay, you got more in the tank. Jay, you got more in the tank. Jay, you got to love yourself more. Jay, you got to dig deeper. Jay, you got to let go more trauma. Jay, like that's what it is, right? So I shook, and then I went and saw my counselor that got me into treatment. She's like, and I was telling her all this stuff that I had done in 10 years. I hadn't seen her in 10 years. And she's like, oh, do you realize like most people in recovery don't get like a percentage of what you've done? She said, have you ever said you're proud of yourself? And I broke down, right? Because I never said. Now I was 10 years into recovery. And, I had to rub doubles with Wayne Gretzky and William Shatner. I got big tips and all this stuff I did, right? Like all this amazing stuff that I did, and it wasn't easy. A lot of people think I got it handed to me on this silver platter and that I put no work in and any of this stuff. And, it was hard work. It was a lot of hard work and sleepless nights to get the stuff that I got, but it was very, very rewarding. But she was right.
Well, Jay, a lot of people hear these big things, right? And they're like, oh my God, like he had it given to him. They don't see the work that you had to do to get to where you are. A lot of people just think when we hear these incredible stories and, oh my God, they had it given to them. Somebody just gave them a lucky chance, gave them the opportunity. But it's like you said, it's all the God sense, right? Or whatever you want to call it, higher power, or whatever, we have to be able to listen and be able to say, oh shit, we got to wake up here. We got to start believing in ourselves again. How long did it take you to say that you were proud of yourself, Jay?
So she said it then, 2018, and I still had some problems with it. Then we got into the pandemic, and then I met Ashley. Ashley and I were together for 4 years, or 3.5 years. We were branded as the recovery couple, Canada's recovery couple, and Ashley really reignited what you see today. So even though Ashley and I aren't together today, I met Ashley at 5 months, when she was 5 months into recovery. And I started teaching her my program. I had this program called Hype that I hadn't got into book form. It was just in my mind, and I was helping people all across the world just by talking with my program and getting people to understand that they're not alcoholics and addicts, that it's trauma. And, why don't you just become a healaholic? I'm a healer. I like to heal. I'm a healaholic. That's what I like to do. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not an addict. I'm none of those things. I'm a healaholic. I want to heal. I need to get to the trauma. Here's some tools. So anyways, I started teaching this to Ashley, and Ashley started getting it. So all of a sudden my hype started coming back and my mojo started. And I was like, you know what I mean? I knew the program was there. I knew all this stuff was there. And Ashley and I had a TV show called The Recovery Couple, and we did 100 and something lives on Facebook and had thousands of people watching us at the time. And, you know, out of nowhere, she said, you know, Jay, have you ever said you're proud of yourself? And I just broke down, right? Because that was like 2 years ago that my counselor said it. And we're on live, and I'm like broke down. And so I thought to myself, okay, this is the second time I've actually heard it. So I've heard somebody say it. I didn't take action. You know, you talk about the Teatime. My first one is take action, right? So I didn't take action when Sandy Paul, my counselor, big shout out to her too, said it. But I really heard it when Ashley said it to me. It kind of sunk in. At this point, I'm at 12 years into recovery, and I still haven't said I'm proud of myself. Stay. And I said, I'm proud of you, Jay. And, right? But at that moment, I surrendered again. I surrendered to, you know, what I thought was ego, right? Because that's the biggest problem, right? Ego is going to get in my way at any moment of the day. So I need to get rid of ego, because that basically means I'm edging out God. Not saying I didn't have God, but I was still trying to like take control of the wheel.
Yeah.
So I couldn't let go of the wheel to say I'm proud of myself. And so that was like 2021 or 2022. And we started building Hype Recovery, which is a 6 and a 12-week program. I became a 3-time author that year. We launched that program along with my team, who was Ashley, Bob, Sabrina, and Brooke from Sober Biz Co. Big shout out to Sober Biz Co, because she's the one that has done all the branding, all the logos, all the writing, all the posters, everything that you see when it comes to our social media stuff has been Brooke. She's one of the most beautiful souls. She actually just passed 777 the other day, 7 years, 7 months, 7 days.
Wow.
Which is interesting, because I messaged her and said, hey, girl, happy 777. And then I looked up. The last time she was online was 7 minutes ago. So it was like 7777. So
Wow.
4 sevens. So I'm right into the numbers too, right? So,
and she has an incredible story. I heard it when I joined the online event that you had.
Yeah, she's a beautiful soul, and I couldn't be more proud of her and everything that she brings to the table for us. So we started this program, and we helped 62 people. Obviously, I had to charge people, and I mean, it was all across the world because it was online. But I had these 500 discovery calls come in where it was people that couldn't afford the program, that were waiting to get into treatment, couldn't see a counselor, doctor, you name it. And I was like, holy shit, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to help these people?
Yeah.
And I ended up taking on like 20 and doing it, you know, for free. And then I met Carl Heath. Carl Heath is a UK stud. He's an author. He has Activating Flow book. He's becoming he's going to be a 2-time author right away. He is the co-founder of the Empower2Recover Foundation, one of the co-founders with Brooke and I. He's the program director and fundraiser as well. And he has his own program called Energy Wise, the Shift and Move, the Boot and Scoot. Movement is the flow. And I brought this to him. I said, listen, I got this idea from 2015 when I did a TEDx talk. And I looked around and went, man, if I could ever just get lived experience individuals from all walks of life and stories in a time where we really need it with the trauma, the mental health, and the addiction, because it's not just about addiction. People have trauma. We need to hear their stories. People have met. We need to hear their stories. We need to hear their stories. And if I could just get organizations, business, products, and services to come to our events on a vendor side, so we can see what's in each city and community, and if we could just partner up with these people, and if we could just bring a day of love, kindness, and compassion, and raise voices and inspire change, and if we could just bring community and make that unity in the community, man, would this be special?
Absolutely.
That was 2015. So that was 8 years ago, that dream. So I brought it to him. It Empower to Inspire at the time. And then Brooke says that name's taken, but I got Empower2Recover, and I was like, buy it now, buy it now. And so she came up with this awesome E2R. And then we just went ham on promoting what Empower to Recover was for the first year. Ashley and I were going all over the place, BC to shows, to recovery days, to Brooke was going to Soberfest, and we were just promoting it. And what's interesting about this, again, here's another God shot, is November 19th of 2022, we were supposed to do our first event in the at the Anvil Center. We weren't ready. We weren't ready, and I had to cancel. And at this point, there was a lot of money that was invested on my side of things, and I was just like, oh man, did the dream. You know what I mean? Like, for a split second there, you think in your mind, like, did I just lose a dream? And so I just buckled it in with Brooke and said, no matter what, May 27th, we do the first event, New Westminster 2023 at the Anvil Center. It's going to be one of the most amazing events. So we did. It turned out that there was 4 other events that day. But 120 people showed up to our event, and we had people like Shea Emery, 2-time Grey Cup champion, one of my best buddies he won the Grey Cup with the Montreal Alouettes. We had Carl Heath, we had Brooke, we had Ashley and I there, we had Ted Wilson from Team Unity, who has an amazing nano mist spray that helps with anxiety and depression, and we had the Tesla beds there. We had treatment centers and second stage homes there from a vendor booth side. We had kids play there. Cal shared. We had TJ from Coastal Recovery Community. We had Beatrice Love, who was a semifinalist on Canada's Got Talent that year. And then we had the keynote speaker, Stanley Cup champion, Theo Fleury share.
Wow.
And we raised $7,995.
That is awesome.
And I was like, okay.
So Jay, you have some events coming up. I want to get them out. So we're almost at the end here. So I want to get those events out for anybody that's listening. So can you give us some shout outs on what dates, where to go, how to find you?
Yeah. So April 13th, we have a live event in Timmins, Ontario. So if you go to www.empower2recover.com, you're going to see everything and anything there. You can get the tickets for Timmins there as well. Then on 4/24, we have our online events. We're combating 420, so everybody knows about 420 day. Everybody gets high. So we want to have a 424 day where everybody gets sober and clean, and let's talk about that. So you can also register for free there or pay what you can to help us put on these events. May 11th, we go to the Edmonton Convention Center for our biggest event. So I should back that up. Timmins, we got keynote speaker Kalichi coming in from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Great dude, sharing all about his recovery, and he's a hip hop artist, just played at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Then we go to Edmonton. In Edmonton, we got 3-time Stanley Cup champion Dave Hunter with the Edmonton Oilers. He's our keynote speaker, also 30 plus years into recovery. We got Paul Collins, who was 2019 inducted into the Business Hall of Fame of Alberta. He's sharing. We got musicians there, Danny Floyd. We got Jamie Miner. We got Brooke and I hosting. We got Carl Heath there. We got the list of speakers are on. Carmela Pelly makes the stage again. She was one of the first ones ever to do mocktails. So tickets are available on Eventbrite for that event. So you just got to Google Alberta's Battle Through Recovery Edmonton. And then September 28th, we are going to be in Port Hardy at the Civic Center. We don't have any of the information up yet, but we will have the posters. If anybody wants to support or make a gift of contribution to the platform, since we're a non-for-profit, you can through the www.empower2recover.com. We're always looking for long-term partnerships with people. I like to call it community partners because I want people to be with us forever. So those are the 3 events. We're in talks with another event in Saskatoon and another event in Thunder Bay, but they're not confirmed. So we could possibly have 5 events this year. But all your information is going to be at www.empower2recover.com. We also have a podcast on all major platforms called Empower to Recover. We also have a YouTube channel called Empower to Recover. And we just launched a TV show called The Daily Dose of Recovery that airs on Rogers TV. Once my hip is in better shape, Jay will start interviewing people, and we will be back on the big screen asking you what your new superpower is and how do you deal with your new superpower, which is recovery.
Wow, look at that. See, I told him, let's get it out there, and he got it out there. Boom, 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 boom. I like it like that, Jay. It's take the action, right? And belief in yourself. So, what final message do you have for everybody that's listening today?
Sorry, what was that?
Right. I said, what final message do you have for everybody that's listening today, Jay? And what message do you have for yourself today?
Take action. Nothing in life happens on for free. Like we just aimlessly walk around this earth. And if you want to aimlessly walk around this earth, that's the action you're going to get, right? So if you take action in your own life, you love yourself, you're kind to yourself, you're kind to others. You listen to others, you listen to yourself, look yourself in the mirror, say you're proud of yourself. It took me, you heard, 12 years to look at myself in the mirror to say I'm proud of myself. I suggest doing that right out of the gate. Look in the mirror, get to know yourself, get to know who you are. Work on your trauma. Don't be scared of your trauma, right? Look at yourself as a healaholic. You're healing, and if you're healing, you're going to level up. And if you level up, you're going to get to the next levels of life. And I always like to say, water the seeds in the grass and the flowers that water you back. And if you're spending time watering seeds, grass, and flower that aren't watering your back, should you be doing that? Right? Like that's the real question. And the other one is time is currency. Nothing's guaranteed in life, so we don't know if we're going to be here tomorrow. So use your time wisely to the best of your ability. Don't get yourself caught up and preoccupied about spent time, which is the past. You can't change the past. You can only accept the past. And if you accept the past, you can move forward. And I always look at time as currency. How much currency? Every year we get 31 million seconds a year. What are you using those seconds for? Because we just really don't know. You really don't know when you're going to go. You really don't know when God says it's your turn. And are you going to have any regrets? Are you sitting on all your dreams and goals? And why aren't you hitting your dreams and goals? What's stopping you? So, the other one I would say is say, I love you to yourself and to others. A lot of people don't hear that word, I love you. It's 3 words and it's simple to say, easy to say, and it has a lot of meaning. So, even the person on the street, just say, I love you. Say it to your mom, call your mom up, call somebody up you haven't said I love you to, because you might not hear from them tomorrow. And you won't regret it. So, yeah.
So, Jay, I want to wrap it up with the word empowering, because you gave me that as your E, and advocacy. But the advocacy we have seen, we've heard in the story, but I want to get into the word empowering before we wrap it up. We have less than 2 minutes here. So what does the word empowering mean to you, Jay?
Exactly what I just did. Empowering myself to be open and honest and raw about telling my story that at one point in my life, I thought was the worst thing in my life. Turns out today that my story is the best thing in my life and it saved my life. I'm empowered to share my story so that other people know that they can share their story so they feel that they're not alone. So if you can empower yourself, you're going to go out and empower others. And, last year we saw 32 different speakers. We saw 485 people attend all the events, 47 different community partners, traveled across 3 provinces and 3 cities to put on my biggest dream. That's empowering. And that's empowering other people to know that they're not alone, and empowering myself to say that I'm worth it too. So.
Well, I really want to thank you, Jay, for joining me, spilling a good, strong cup of tea and sharing your story. This is how we make a difference when we spill our truth. And this is how we spill tea in this house. We spill real life tea stories. So we teach educational awareness through storytelling. And like Jay said in the beginning of the show, the new change in the world is stories. We all have a story. It doesn't matter where we are. We all come from all different walks of life. And I really appreciate what you're doing, Jay. Keep it up. And again, I'm just a cup of tea away. And if anybody would like to know more about Teatime, you can check Mrs.'s website at www.mrssteatimes.com. If you'd like to reach out to Jay, reach out to Jay. I'll get you to read the website for the audio listeners.
www.Empower2Recover.com. That's the number 2. So Empower Empower2Recover or Empower2Recover.com.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to all the listeners and viewers out there. And if you're watching the replay, please push hashtag replay. Let me know where you're tuning in from, because I always like to know where you guys are coming in from. And I'll see everybody on Thursday at 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. with 2 more TEAs for us to enjoy and to share and to make a difference one cup of tea at a time.